Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of News News and Views, Bermuda Election Edition. And we're here with five candidates from the Free Democratic Movement. We're very lucky to have them here today, and they're going to have a chance to get to know them a little bit better and some of the policies from the FDM. And we're going to start with them introducing. So what I'd like you to do is introduce yourself. That way the people can get to know you a little bit better. Tell us what constituency you are running in, where your polling station is, and why people should vote for you. And we're going to start with Dwayne Smith.
Good afternoon, Bermuda. I'm Dwayne Smith. I'm running in constituency number 2. The polling station is at Pennos Wharf in St. George's. And Don has just posed a question. Why should you vote for me? Well, first and foremost, I was born and raised in Western Hills, St. George's. My family roots run deep into St. George's, even up to today. I'm a person that you can guarantee and rest assured that whatever promises I make to you, the constituent, they will be done. I will not make any idle promise that I know personally myself I cannot fulfill. For too long, we have had politicians that have just made idle promises, especially during this election time. But I can guarantee you that I will not make any promise that I know personally I cannot fulfill myself. I am filled with zeal, I am filled with determination, and I personally believe that the introduction of the FDM is a breath of fresh air to our political environment in Bermuda. I do not consider myself to be a politician, but I am going to be a servant for those in constituency number 2.
Okay, thank you. Christina Story.
Hello, I'm Christina Story, and I'm running in 33, which is Sand South, or I think of it more like the 3 hills. So that's White Hill, Wreck Hill, and Scour Hill. And I will kind of take a different tack, and anybody who's heard me talk out there in the last few weeks in my neighborhood knows I've been saying this to them. For me, the voting booth is kind of like the confessional. I don't need to know. I don't want to know. Because if I get the job, it's not going to matter. And that really goes to what I think the job description is, which is really kind of 2 parts, right? One is, can you read law? Can you help contribute to writing good law? Can you figure out which laws to get rid of and how? And then there's this whole other basket of qualifications, which all my colleagues have, which have to do with, can you connect with your constituents sufficiently widely, regardless of whether or not they can vote, do vote, did vote for you, enough to foster relationships between them. Not good for them, not unite them under some policy you announce in a town hall, but to organize and use the MP's actual facility in finding common ground, which is really essentially everybody needs to be seen, heard, valued. Nobody likes being left out. Nobody likes to be made to feel less than. So like, if people can get together in intimate conversations, right? Small settings, to have big conversations, I think a lot more common ground on a practical basis can be found. So that's what I'm doing.
Okay, thank you. Now, I know you don't want to brag on yourself too much, but you're also Harvard educated.
I confess, yes, I went to quote school in Boston, which is code that a lot of us use to kind of not necessarily put it out there right away. And then I went on to Oxford and I went on Rhodes, which I didn't expect to do. So I ended up down an academic path that I enjoyed very much. But I've also had a lot of other long-term, even longer-term kind of relationships, whether they're water sports or hospitality or more water sports. So I'm a relatively balanced person given all my education. And if anybody wants my bio, I'm sure it's out there, but I don't need to keep listing degrees. Otherwise, I'm going to make Cheryl do it because she does have Yale in there. So, you know, I'm not the only one.
We'll go to Eugene Dean now. A lot of people probably know Eugene as being very involved in the community I mean, ever since I've been back, I've known you're going around and trying to do things that are helping. But Eugene, you better probably introduce yourself to the public.
Well, greetings, everyone. Give thanks, Don, for the opportunity to be here. My name is Eugene Dean. I'm the constituent for the Free Democratic Movement in San South, constituency 34. I'm very fortunate that I have the opportunity to serve in my neighborhood. I guess my life has, as Don said, always been in the community. I realized some time ago that my life is for people. I've tended to put the interests of others before mine, and it's something that I continue to do, and it's really the reason that I'm here now. I've made it clear to everyone who's involved with the movement that politics is something that I've stayed away from intentionally. I haven't liked what it's become. And I recognize that it's become this not because of what it was intended for, but what people have made it. I have struggled to find representation in the political arena. And that's another reason why I've stayed away, because I've yet to find anyone who was really able to connect with me in a way that I felt confident that they could represent me and my views at a leadership level. So my life is involved, engaging in the issues that I've seen as being pertinent in the country, and in most cases is things that other people have tended to stay far away from or not really get involved in, so it's ranged anywhere from dealing with sports to youth development to gangs and gang violence, environment to culture. And my partners and I, who I've worked with pretty much my entire adult life, we have a mantra: unity in the community, worldwide, fighting with peace and not for it. And that's something that I'm looking to bring into this arena. I've asked everyone, right, to avoid at all costs calling me a politician, because I take it as an offense. to refer to me as a public servant. And I see Dwayne has represented himself in that way as well. And I feel like it's an important distinction. Language is power, or something that I've always said is like words sound power. And then when you actually say public servant, it makes a difference, because it brings the focus back to what the position is really about. Many times it feels as though, we find ourselves in positions of leadership, and then it's as if we assume that the people are there to serve us rather than the reverse. And so we're just looking as a collective group to keep the horse in front of the cart and ensure that we are addressing things from the perspective that it was intended to be addressed from. And meaning in that, I mean that the interests of the people remain in front, and that remains the priority and the only focus of all of our discussions and all of our work. And we leverage all of our collective experience, all of our talent, all of our wisdom to that, to ensure that the needs of the people are met, and that as a country, we're able to move in a positive direction. And that's going to require everyone. And so we're going to need a unifying element. We hear things within politics and primarily around elections that are mostly divisive. And that becomes extremely concerning. And so we're looking to bring honest and transparent leadership that the community can relate to. And we look to achieve that by remaining connected. There's no need for us to leave our place, to find ourselves separated from the populace that we're here to represent. We're looking to retain the connection, to ensure that our work is in alignment with our people's needs.
Okay, thank you. Gavin Smith just joined us. Hi, Gavin. We'll go to Tiana Saltis. Same question that we've been asking everybody. Just introduce yourself, give us a little brief bio, what constituency you're running in, where your polling station is, and why people should vote for you.
Okay, sorry, I'm just trying to like center my camera.
Okay.
Oh, so okay. Sorry, I'm using my finger. My name is Tiana Sotis. I am running in constituency 35 in Sands. My polling station will be at St. James Church in Somerset. I believe you should vote for me because I am the perfect representation of Somerset. I have lived in Somerset my entire life, and I still reside here. I was educated in Somerset up until high school. And for the past 9 years since returning from university, I have put everything into Somerset as far as providing the services that were needed, supporting my community through whatever efforts and outreach I can get my hands into. I decided to join the FDM and to get into this simply just to do that, just to better be able to service my community and help cries and issues be sorted out. I think that for many years, Somerset has gone unworried about. Our votes are taken for granted. Minimal work gets done in Somerset. We have poor representation, and it's time for it to change. Because I am young and a part of what we would consider the youth, why not? Why not use my platform that I have created for myself to better service my community? I'm also raising a son, so I want my son to be able to live a good life in the same area that I live, which is Somerset. I don't want him to have to relocate to have a good life. So I'm doing this for my son. I'm doing it for your sons, your daughters, and yeah, please vote for me on Thursday.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl, you've been on before and introduced yourself, but even briefer from the time before, and then answer the rest of the like where your polling station is and why people should vote for you.
I just want to say, Tiana, I think that what Tiana just said is why we're all running. It's for all of our children and our grandchildren in the future of Bermuda. My name is Cheryl Packwood. I'm running in constituency 7. Our polling station is at Harrington Sound Primary. You need to vote for me because I will fight for you, for your children, for my children. I will fight for a better Bermuda. I have worked hard for Bermuda over the past few decades, and I know I see many fundamental problems, and we've got a lot of work to do, and it's not going to be easy. And we need fighters. The FDM is filled with fighters, and I am a fighter. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Cheryl. Gavin, I hope you've got the questions there to help you answer them.
All right. Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Let's see. My name is Gavin Smith. My artist name is Jada. A lot of people know me through my work with Youth Arts Coaching Community. I moved it through one of my babies, the Acoustic Foundation. A lot of my work in the community has been centered around doing my best to provide what I saw was needed. Some of the things I thought were, that I personally wish I could have had coming up, trying to fill those gaps for the next generation. On the other side of all of that, now kind of coming into the political landscape, it harkens back to some of my origin story with the Gambia Liberation Party, which was really a protest campaign in St. George's, specifically to try and demonstrate the possibility of a third way. That time it was inspired by ending conscription in Bermuda and trying to create a platform for youth voice within the political arena. I've always been disappointed by the tribal gang style warfare of the political parties and the way that they were always based around race and class. I feel like Bermuda has too much going for it and too many things. Our people have too many things in common to be so divided. And we just needed a neutral, safe space for those voices to be actually heard and employed for the betterment of the country and the people. I'm Gavin Smith. I'm running with the Free Democratic Movement. constituency 21, Pembroke Southeast. It's really a wonderful cornucopia of Bermuda. I like to think of it as a distillation of the entire Bermuda population. It goes from, Bacatown area, Middletown, from Parsons Road all the way over to Front Street, which has one of the most diverse ranges within all the constituencies. It's constituency 21. I can't wait to represent that community in the House.
Where's your polling station?
My polling station is at the Hamilton Seventh Adventist Church on King Street. Okay. I'll be there all day, and if you have any snacks or anything you can help me with, I would appreciate that. We're gonna have to make it fun, but I'm quite convinced that it's gonna be scary and terrifying because I know the PLP's been carrying on hardcore, but we're coming pretty hard ourselves. So I ain't scared. I'm just getting ready.
Cool. Just to let our viewers know, if you have a question you'd like to ask a candidate, please leave a comment on the stream, and I'll try to ask them. That way they can. Yeah.
So I, with all the degrees, forgot to say that my polling station is the Masons Lodge right next to Maximart on Middle Road. And so if you go as far as, one hill or the other and you don't see it, turn around.
Okay. Now, I know you guys have been pretty active on your Facebook page. You've been posting photos of being out in the community. I actually went to Cheryl's event on Saturday. I didn't partake of any of the free sandwiches, but Gavin, in particular, I saw yours, and you were out helping clean up the community. What are you finding out being amongst the people in that group?
I'm finding out how much frustration and disappointment there are. There's some people that are really hurting. Beyond COVID-19, they've been hurting for years. And I think there's a lot of frustration with politics as usual, where people have felt like there's been a lot of promises made, leading into an election, and then after that, they drop right off. Unlike Eugene, who's talking about, and Tiana, who are from their area, I wasn't raised in 21 or in the city. I was raised in Southampton. So I've had to do a lot of learning. And it was also kind of a bit of a reunion too, because coming up, I was always running around Bacatown and, hanging with some of my boys out from town. Back then, it wasn't such a divide. I see the concerns being this actual divide. Some of their children cannot go certain places. Some of them are literally needing food. Some of them are really on the edge of being evicted from government housing. Some of them, you saw the trash cleanup, like there's some discussion that's come up within the campaign, and it's part of our mission to reintroduce 2-day trash pickups. But those types of seeing these small issues get magnified in concentrated, densely populated areas, mixed use areas like Northampton. And so the people are crying out for more. And we're trying to be ears and eyes on the ground to offer more when we get voted in.
Right. Now, I know the OBA has said that they were going to go to twice a week trash pickup, but only during the summer. What are the rest of you finding out from your community, and how do you feel like yours is needed? You're talking about twice a week in general. Do you feel like your constituents are crying out for that?
Absolutely. One of the most educative experiences for me early in canvassing was actually with the son of a constituent of one of our colleagues who's not here, who does that work. And, actually in a completely spontaneous conversation started expressing how unhappy he was with the fact that from the point of view of the people who are actually doing the work, right? They were not happy with the way that it was impacting their life, and they were unhappy with the way that they weren't heard by management. And so that really definitely, gave me one live, real person who, for no other reason, it was in post-hurricane, bonding together, everybody's got to deal with all the boats that broke the moorings, right? But that definitely early in made it clear that it wasn't just the people who were needing the trash picked up or vector control that had suddenly like way more concentrated issues, or any of the, but that right down to the people who are doing the work. It just is too much work to try and execute in 1 week. And even in a week creates problems that they don't want to have to deal with if they were doing it twice.
Anybody else? No. Okay. The number one issue for people seems to be the economy. We had 700 jobs lost, 700 plus jobs lost at the Fairmont Southampton. The Chamber of Commerce has reported nearly 50 retail businesses have closed. A.S. Cooper has gone into receivership. People are taking up to 25% pay cuts, furlough weeks or furlough days, and or reduced working hours. What specific plans does the FDM have to guide Bermuda to economic recovery over the next 5 years? And I know you guys have sort of broken them down into silver, blue, orange, and blue economies. You know, what are these and how will these help Bermuda?
I kind of feel like first and foremost, it's about showing that we're here to work with whoever's here to work with and for Bermuda. By simply being willing to work with all sides of the divide, and by being committed to innovation and ideas that will help to boost the economy. It's not so much about being restricted to single ideas that a small group can come up with. It's about really demonstrating being open to entertaining ideas from everywhere and from anyone.
Don, it's
And the
about.
platform is really
Oh, I'm sorry.
good.
Yeah, no, further on that and more detailed, it's about creating a sustainable Bermuda. And to do that, we have to diversify our economy. And if you look at the theme that's running through the different colors, it is about diversification. We can no longer depend solely on international business and tourism. We will boost those, and those are very important to our economy, but we have to find other industries that are going to bring in money, foreign exchange, jobs for people. And those industries do exist. There's a multitude of things we can do, and we have to do things that are job intensive. At the height of the pandemic, there were almost 10,000 people out of work, furloughed, let go, whatever. But now we have something like 5,000 to 6,000 people out of work. That's a lot of people when you're talking about a job market of between 24 and 28,000 people. You're talking about about a fifth of our job market is unemployed. So we have to get serious in terms of what are we going to do. There are many things. We can look at doing a port, a transshipment port. We can look at doing aquaculture. We can do, but all the parties have talked about vertical farming. And indeed, there's a group here in Bermuda that has proposed doing vertical farming. And indeed, with the vertical farming, it is digitalized. Being indoors and when the plants are watered and so forth. And they have an excellent plan in how to go forward. And it's actually not that much money, and they can feed not just us, they would feed the restaurants, they would, and eventually there would be enough to ship abroad, and we could brand those vegetables or fruit as Bermuda vegetables, as Hawaii does for Hawaiian pineapple or Hawaiian fish, and the same for aquaculture. Yes, it is very true, and our Mark Bean has discussed how our waters are being fished by other countries, and the problem is that they're being overfished, and we all love fresh Bermuda fish and line fishing, but in reality, Bermudians eat something between 70 and 80% of the fish that we eat in Bermuda is imported farmed fish. If that is the case, why don't we farm our own fish and eat our own farmed fish out of our own waters? and the list goes on all the different things that we can do and products that we can produce to feed ourselves and to send abroad and feed the world. Instead of the world feeding us, we can feed the world.
Yeah. I know, like during the early part of the pandemic, there was a lot of concern about food security and what would happen if the container ships didn't arrive in Bermuda. And then, of course, the price increases, which gets into one of the viewers' comments, Carolina Castro. She said, "We need control of inflation in groceries. It is crazy that in less than 6 months, a lot of products have increased more than 25 to 40%, and salaries remain exactly the same, or probably less in some cases." As and just talking about the cheapest food, or trying to get cheaper food in the supermarkets.
Don, the issue is also that food has also increased in pricing by 20 to 50% in the US as well. When you go to the shelves, the stores, and the supermarkets, that food has also increased. But if we can produce our own food, and not all of it, obviously we're not going to start growing wheat and all of a sudden to make bread. But if we can produce enough of our own food, then the prices should go down, and we don't have to keep complaining about the high prices of food and cost of feeding our families and so.
Right. Can I just interject with just some, because I think everything Cheryl has been saying is correct. It's all there in our platform, and I think the point Gavin was making is that there are so many great ideas out there. We're open to all of them, not just our own, and that, you know, FDM has a spirit of experimentation. Like, let's try, and then if it works, great. Let's develop that more. If it doesn't work, then there are other great ideas to have. I think one of the important things about FDM and the kind of economic framework that it brings, rather than like a detailed plan, like a magic magician, how we're going to fix everything. But there is this kind of approach that goes, it is far more important to focus right now on getting more money into the pockets of the people who are earning money or have money than it is to kind of do some version of a kind of austerity squeeze with more taxes and so on, and less into the pockets of people who have it, right? So even if you just start with where we are right now and how do we make what we have right now work even better for us, there is a framework that says, you know, smaller, cheaper, more efficient governments, which doesn't mean job cuts, it means waste cuts, you know, and it means focus more on the things that government should do and being efficient. I hear all over the place, every person, I've knocked on over 200 doors, Post Lady is accompanying me, which is great. And I'm telling you, across the board, people in 33 are personally impacted by inefficiencies, fees, red tape, startup costs. I mean, from the micro entrepreneur to the person who's running big business. And one of my constituents is the person who made me think about, you know, there are other laws that we should kind of almost get rid of and start again, like Transportation Act. You know, and so there are a lot of ways in which we can make our economic situation, whichever seeds, you know, FDM facilitates the community in coming up with and trying out. By way of economic activity, there's some core stuff we can do around cutting costs in rational ways, right? Not human ways, and getting more money into the hands of everybody who earned it or has it so they can make choices with it.
Now, I know education is a primary concern for many parents, especially like if your younger ones are still in school here or at college level. Why do you feel school vouchers are a better way to go than our current system?
Well, I think I can speak to that a bit. That at the moment we have an education system that separates people by class. So it's people who can afford choice in education and people who are unable to afford choice. So what we're looking to do with education reform, aside from empowering school boards and principals and teachers and parents to determine the direction the school runs in, is use a voucher system. That means that every child has access to the same choice as it relates to education in the country, you know? So everyone has the ability to choose which school is in the best interest without having to worry about the associated cost. So that's the whole value of a voucher system.
What that creates for the ecosystem in education, though, is also a more competitiveness. And that competitiveness will allow for nuance, will allow for specific educational leaders to really employ all their skills and their ideas. A big part of the blockages that we see in education is a singular, unilateral, top-down dictate. By actually putting the power into the hands of the parents, that effectively becomes a regular vote that the families use to support existing campuses that they believe are having the results that they want and that they prefer. Wealth, the cornerstone of wealth is choice.
Right.
And what the voucher system allows for is for every Bermudian to have a choice finally with their child. My child's, we just pulled, my daughter just left private school. We had her in public school all her life. And when she graduated when she finished at Delwood Middle School, we sent her to Soltis because of all of the different challenges that we're seeing in the public school system and the lack of stable, consistent leadership, because there's been so much principal shifts going on and on throughout the last 10 years. Anyway, while she was very successful and it really helped her to kind of fill some of her challenges academically, we couldn't afford it. Just couldn't afford to keep her there. It's expensive. It's the school fees. It's the lifestyle of private school is an expensive proposition for working class families. And so it's not even an option. And then you tie that to, you have to go to certain schools just based on where you reside. And then you also only have 2 senior school options. It doesn't create the choice that every citizen deserves to make for their child. And there's nothing more heartbreaking than not being able to provide the best for your child. The voucher system will allow for parents to at least be able to have some choice with where their child goes and the destiny of their family.
Okay. Now, Antoinette Simmons has a question, but before we get to that, dealing with education, how much would this voucher be worth?
Well, this is what we got to figure out with the actual state of the the finances of government once we get in there and really unpack what the truth is about what's going on behind the scenes. Fundamentally, we're paying for education anyway, and the numbers will be based around what we're already paying and then what we can do more. And for me, I'm also very much in support of getting corporate buy-in to our education system. The corporate business structures are not even really, there's no opportunity for them to be a part of supporting the Bermuda education system. They're the ones that hire people. They're the ones that hire citizens. They know what their workload, what their occupations they're going to be offering in the next 5, 10, 20 years. So they should be a part as a stakeholder, a natural stakeholder of investing in education.
And develop curriculum, right? I mean, it's not just like, oh, let's go get money from you guys.
Yeah.
More like, how do you school us in what would be an ideal curriculum? I think FDM is definitely into being schooled by those that know, I mean, back to Eugene's vibe, definitely want to ask Tiana to talk about like her views on some of the stuff, because she's one of the best things about FDM for me is a couple of women I've gotten to know. I've known Cheryl a long time, which is awesome. But Tiana and Patrice Miners, definitely bright stars. But I mean, I think Eugene was talking a lot, about this, is that we are open to representing people who are interested in representing themselves in their collectiveness. And there's a lot of talent out there that can be harnessed, right? Rather than either bought or told to.
Tiana, do you want to jump into education here?
Yeah, I'd add my 2 cents. So I think that the issues that lie within education, we know what needs to be done. It's just that it never gets done. Every year you hear the ideas or the plans, but nothing hasn't changed. So our product that we're pushing out to our children is horrible. What I'm particularly interested in as far as the FDM stands is the transformation of Bermuda College. Everyone knows university and college education overseas is expensive. You can't put a monetary value to the experience your child will receive, but it is expensive. And for a parent, if you are unable to give your child that opportunity, I can imagine how it feels. With the decline in scholarships and stuff, you almost have to be able to afford some of it yourself. And I think that if Bermuda College became a university and was able to offer more university degrees, it wouldn't be so much a need for our children to leave the island to get further education after high school. And I really, really love that idea. And I think it's needed because it's too many people that get stuck after Bermuda College because they can't afford to go no further. And it's just unfair. I think it's a disservice to our children that maybe do well all year, throughout the whole academic career from primary school straight through to get finished, and then you can't go no further because your parents can't afford it. Obviously, it may cost much, but if the cost would not come near what you have paid to go anywhere, and I would even include to the UK. So that's what I genuinely really like about what the FDM's proposing for education.
No,
After that, real
Can
quick.
I just add
Sure.
something to that? I think we
well,
will have
everyone's excited
to,
about education.
Okay, I get it.
we'll have to,
And
I
Dwayne,
mean, the whole idea of creating a university in Bermuda, there's many different ways that it can be done, and it would have to be. I'm very much a big person for researching and seeing the facts, the costs, and so forth. We do have to realize that we are a small island, and it may not be feasible in the end, but we should always have aspirational goals.
I would add though that we can also think about becoming in that context, associated with UWI. UWI is an amazing institution. My roommate at Harvard spent like half a year there as part of her Harvard course. So I think there are a lot of ways that Bermuda can tap into kind of the value of connectivity, not just amongst each other, but the fact that all Bermudians throughout all times have had connections to everywhere. And 400 years of that has given us a competitive edge that we should, I reckon, dig into more. So yeah, I agree with you. I think, becoming a full-blown university is quite the exercise. But I think getting a local option that provides competitive tertiary qualifications such that your kid can go there and it's, at a high enough standard that you're competing with any university degree that's coming back to Bermuda is totally viable. I think it's what we got to do. We have to have less conversation, more action.
Just to add to that, also, like you touched on, I think it's a real opportunity for international students to come to Bermuda, bringing in an influx of cash flow from elsewhere and influx of resources in general. I've always had some of my schoolmates ask if they could do the master's or do different other educational opportunities for them to study in Bermuda. And just like you're saying, Christina, with your Harvard colleague that did part of their semester in Jamaica, I think Bermuda could be a very viable, very appealing option.
I think also, Gavin, that there are a lot of us like me. I'm midlife, putting myself through with some friends, old textbooks, kind of the associate reinsurance. So in a way that we don't kind of this, our primary industry is either boring or them or whatever it is. It really is truly the case that if a person's interested in things like, how do I think about risk in the world? Or, what are the ways of measuring a piece of string? How much is, there are interesting things about what insurance and reinsurance is, and it's not all rocket science. And bringing people here to why people want to come work here in order to study here just generates more people for our people to join in with, right? So yeah, I think the opportunities across the board cut all directions.
Just to get to Antoinette's question, and Antoinette, sorry, I know you've asked this a little while ago, but she's asked, where do you stand on young adults with learning disabilities, especially those who are high-functioning autism, who have so much to offer? They have so much to give to the community, but there's no programs, and very few people in the community will even look at giving them an opportunity at working. which is sad because they're usually very smart and think outside the box.
I think that more support is needed for children with autism. I have a friend who has sons with autism, and so often she's complaining about the lack of support she has. Right now, I'm currently studying to become a behavior technician, and with that, we work with children with autism. I was ignorant to the subject of autism prior to starting this course, and through my studies, found that so much could be done with just the right interventions, with the right people to work with them. And I think that whoever our new government is come October 2nd or October 1st, they definitely need to take it serious, and you need to invest some more money into children with special needs, learning disabilities, because it's not a lot of facilities or services available to them. So again, the being left out, and you are stopping them from living potentially a good life. Um, all over the world, they do so much. We're way behind. We we're way behind. Like, I would love to see it. Whoever it is, just do better.
Okay. Now I want to go from our young people to the other opposite end of the extreme. Our seniors, we know the Census Department has projected like 25% of our population by 2024, 2025 will be 65 or older. Dwayne, what do you see happening in this area if the FDM gets in power, or what they propose to help our senior citizens?
Well, thank you, Don. This is a particular part of the community that is I hold very near and dear to my heart. One, because I'm from a family whose mother specialized in geriatric care, and therefore I have also taken this mantra on as being something that I pursue with my own personal business. Um, I believe that because that is the fastest growing segment of our population, that unfortunately in Bermuda, they are also the part of our population that has been forgotten about. And as I tell people, had it not been for our seniors, then none of us would be here. They were the ones who laid the foundation for this community. And I believe that we ought to do everything that we can within our power for the remainder of their days here on this earth to ensure that they live a life with purpose, as well as protect them and give them an integrity. And in addition to that, for those who have been confined to their home, I know of a situation personally. I will not go into detail just to protect the identity of the individual, but she is a double amputee, and she told me that she has not had the opportunity to go outside of her home since beginning of the COVID. So she's basically been a prisoner confined to her home since March. And I went over and beyond what I should have done to ensure that this woman was provided a ramp so that she would be able to venture in and out of her home at her own leisure. But this is just one of the countless sad stories that I come in contact with on a regular basis in Bermuda. And I have partnered with numerous charities and organizations within this country to ensure that we do not forget about our seniors. But also, it's not just about me as a person, but I believe collectively as a community, we all know of a senior citizen, i.e., it be one of our loved ones, family, or friends, or even one of our neighbors. And we should all ensure that we check on our seniors, if not on a daily, but on a consistent basis, just to ensure that they have the basic needs that they're able to survive.
Okay.
But Don, I'll say this, right? And really pertaining to the last two questions that were asked. First, I'll address about the seniors. We currently have a system where, the young feed into a system that takes care of our elderly. And we face a situation that our population has changed. So elderly people, that community, people are living longer and people are having fewer children. So we have a challenge with population that needs to be addressed, and that needs to be addressed through policy. So we have to look at that and how do we increase the younger population that's feeding into a system that allows us to support. Because otherwise, we're just talking about addressing growing needs without building the capacity to actually address them. So that's more. So while yes, it's very important for us to keep seniors in the forefront of our minds, we will only have the capacity if we make the decisions that give us, the ability to actually address the challenges that we're facing with seniors. So that comes down to a policy thing. In reference to education as well, when Tiana was talking about dealing with special needs children, that's the whole premise behind us empowering school boards. Right now, we have a system that's managed by a large Ministry of Education that's detached from a school system that they govern. So you have people who are not intimately involved with the activities of schools that are making decisions on behalf of those schools. Successful schools historically have always been run by the people who are directly involved with the schools. Once we do that, then people like Tiana and others who have looked into special needs, right, will see it fit to form institutions that address that need. We're about empowerment. Our whole ethos is around do for self. We recognize that the community has the capacity to address the issues that we face in our community. And as a government, we recognize that we need to facilitate. We don't necessarily need to control. We just have to put policies in place that facilitate the things that the community knows it needs to do. So once we've freed up our system and change, again, this becomes like a structural thing that has to change, right? Transitioning from a large Ministry of Education to a small Ministry of Education that deals with policy and standards, and empowering schools to be able to do what they see is in the best interest of the communities or the student body, right, that they serve. And once that happens, we'll see the special interest institutions form to address the special interest needs that are in the community.
I want to give everyone a chance to have a final word before we log off, to close this up within an hour.
And Don, I just want to add to that. For years we've heard about that there is insufficient facilities for senior citizens. Yet it just, the rhetoric continues. It's just empty promises, especially during these political election times, that we're going to do more for the seniors. We're going to do more for the seniors. It's almost just to garner their vote. And then after the election is over and done with, once again, they become the forgotten segment of our population. They have a wonderful curriculum at Bermuda College, which is based around geriatric nursing. And I encourage any young person who's looking to get into a field of expertise, consider geriatric nursing, because it's definitely a degree that will not go wasted. You can always use it, even if it means to care for your own elderly relative or family member.
So that's a good point. I mean, we're always going to have older citizens in our community, and and as you mentioned earlier, it's a growing segment of our population. Dwayne, do you want to have any final thoughts?
My final thought is that a vote for the FDM on this coming Thursday would not be a wasted vote. Our leader has a mantra of the FDM. We operate with clean hands and a pure heart. So I'm encouraging each and every person in the island of Bermuda, if you have not decided as of yet who you are going to vote for, give the FDM a chance. I can guarantee you that you will be happily surprised with where we want to take this country.
Okay, thank you, Christina.
Yeah, I will just end with a note that's going out on, I think, my last flyer, which has been delivered by my kids mostly and myself. which I hope will come out as an op-ed. What I really care about is that people vote. Even if you find yourself in a place or a space where you don't like the candidates, any of the candidates, all of the candidates, or you are really seriously so alienated on both sides of what the traditions are, right? Come out and vote. And they have to, I mean, the electoral process requires that spoiled votes are counted in number. And that for whatever reason, a person might go in and, I don't know, draw a picture, write a poem, write in who you'd like to see. You know, there's no question that your voice will have been recorded, and nobody gets to tell you what your silence meant after the fact. So what I really care about is that folks vote.
Okay.
And vote FDM, if you can.
Tiana?
I would just encourage everyone to get out and vote, whether you vote FDM, PLP, OBA. It's your right. Just vote. Obviously, I would prefer it if you voted for FDM because a vote for us is a vote for change, and the way that Bermuda it's needed in Bermuda. And may the best man win on October 1st.
Or
FDM.
woman. Best man or woman.
Oh, woman, you're right.
Cheryl?
Yes. What I really like about the FDM is it's a movement, and it is an umbrella large enough for people of all different ideologies. And we are working on behalf of everybody to make Bermuda a better place with a bright future for our children. Vote for change. Vote for real change, and vote for a better change. And remember that people died and shed blood so that we could vote. And I will never forget that. It is so important to go and exercise your right to vote. And we'd be honored as the FDM candidates to have your vote. Thank you.
Just to sort of piggyback off of what Christina said, maybe if they don't have a FDM candidate in their constituency, if they spoil their ballot, that might be a way to demonstrate that they wish they'd had one. Cheryl or Gavin? We can move on to Gavin as you finish up.
Yeah, I mean, the FDM, this has been in many ways a collective that have answered an urgent distress call for Bermuda. You know, Mark Beam sounded the alarm, and what we have right now is a collection of all types of people trying to represent all of Bermuda. This is the beginning of a movement. This movement is not just for this cycle. This movement is for the long haul. That's one of the things that really drew me to it, is that this isn't going to be a flash in the pan. And for me, I'm already preparing for the future, for next cycle as well. I like my constituency. I want to see all of my constituencies all the time. Gavin Smith, 21. See you on Thursday. And can't wait to serve you, Marina. Serve you for more.
Thank you. And we get into Eugene. Call me a servant leader rather than a politician, Dean.
Don't call him a politician. Please do not do it.
Yeah, give thanks. I just like to say to Bermuda that, you know, we're here for you. We represent you, and you're the reason that we've answered the call and stepped to this platform to bring positive change. And from what I see, our goal ultimately is to have an impact on the trajectory of leadership in this country. And from what I've seen so far, we've already achieved that. And so regardless of what happens on Thursday, to me, we've already won. As Gavin said, you know, this is just the beginning for us. And from this point forward, we just continue to get stronger. For those of you who choose to vote for us and support us on Thursday, then, you know, we greatly appreciate it. This is a humbling experience, and we look forward to serving you in the future. Give thanks.
Give thanks. Now, my mouse has stopped working, but I believe if they want to look at your policies more closely, it's FDM, www.fdm.fdm.bm /our policies.
No, it's FDM Bermuda.
Bermuda.
You said
FDM
confused the way possible. Come on, bud.
FDMbermuda.com
FDM.com/our
Our
policies.
policies slash.
And I encourage everyone to go and look what the FDM is proposing, to review their policies as with the other two parties, and to help you decide which one best suits you or you think is going to be best for Bermuda. And I really want to encourage everyone to come out to vote on Thursday. Vote early. Make sure you don't leave it to the last second. If something comes up that you may not get to vote, exercise your right. I just want to thank to our 6 panelists from the FDM, Dwayne Smith, Christina Story, Tiana Saltis, Cheryl Packwood, Gavin Smith, and Eugene Dean. On the behalf of Burn News, I'm your host, Don Burgess. And as always, have a beautiful evening.